Have you ever shared something genuinely interesting, whether it's a new idea, a piece of research, or a perspective you were excited about, and received something that had almost nothing to do with what you said? Maybe the person said, "I don't know anything about that." Full stop. No curiosity, no follow-up, just the door closing. Or maybe they got quietly, inexplicably irritated. Not because you were rude, just because you offered something new. Or maybe they responded with something completely off topic, not maliciously, but as if your words had passed through them and triggered a completely different internal conversation. Let's translate the anger that runs out of words, because in many cases, it's not simply rudeness, it's not stupidity, it's something deeper. It may be a communication shutdown, shaped by a variety of anger, stress, or an aversion to reality that the person may not even recognize in themselves. Let's start with what we know about the brain under sustained stress. Chronic stress is associated with changes in endocrine regulation, neural circuitry, emotion control, and attention. It can reduce cognitive flexibility and disrupt the balance between threat detection and prefrontal regulation, which helps explain why some people become rigid, reactive, or internally preoccupied under pressure. Research also supports a link between depression and increased self-referential processing, especially rumination, repetitive, self-focused thinking that can crowd out externally oriented attention. In plain language, when a person is stuck in chronic stress, chronic disappointment, or chronic anger, their attention may turn inward, not because they're selfish, but because their nervous system is organized around managing threat, frustration, or loss of control. That matters for communication. Pragmatic language, or the ability to respond in context, stay on topic, acknowledge another person's point, and build on what was just said, all depends on attention, executive function, and social cognition. These capacities can be disrupted by trauma and other forms of cognitive overload. So when someone seems unable to respond to what you said, one possible explanation is that your words were not processed through a calm, outward-facing social system. They may have been absorbed by a mind already preoccupied with threat, grievance, shame, or survival. Let's look at 3 patterns you may recognize and translate what they can mean underneath. Pattern 1. I don't know anything about that. On the surface, this can sound like a dismissal. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it is a protective retreat. A person with a history of repeated failure, invalidation, or uncontrollable circumstances may learn that engaging with something new feels risky. Learned helplessness develops when effort repeatedly fails to change outcomes, and that can reduce initiative and openness over time. So I don't know anything about that may sometimes mean I don't feel safe entering another space where I might be wrong, exposed, or corrected. That does not make the reaction ideal, but it does make it understandable. It can reflect not stupidity, but a narrowed window of tolerance around anything that resembles challenge. Pattern 2. Irritation when offered new information. This is where psychological reactance matters. Reactance is the anger and pushback that arise when a person experiences a message as threatening to their autonomy or control. For some people, especially those with depressive symptoms or long histories of disappointment, even well-meant information can feel like pressure. It may land not as help, but as an implied demand. You should already know this. You should be doing better. You should be different. This is why a suggestion can feel like an accusation. From an anger translating perspective, this can be understood as a variety of anger, not just anger at you, but accumulated anger at reality itself, at being blocked, corrected, left behind, or told too late what should have been available earlier. In that sense, the immediate irritation may be an old protective reflex, meeting a new piece of information. Pattern 3. The non sequitur response. This is the most disorienting one. You say something, they answer something that seems unrelated. The most careful scientific way to say this is not that stress automatically causes non sequiturs, but that high internal preoccupation, reduced executive control, and trauma-related or depressive rumination can make it harder to maintain coherent, externally oriented discourse. So what looks like disregard may actually be a mind that has slipped sideways into its own internal track. They heard you, but not in a way that stayed connected to you. That can happen when the mind is overloaded by anger, pain, or an aversion to reality, so strong that it pulls attention away from the present moment and into an internal storyline instead. Let's be careful here. Not every communication shutdown has a root cause, but when there's a deeper pattern, it often comes from repeated experiences of powerlessness, humiliation, unmet needs, or structural unfairness. If you're like me and you like to share what you learn, but you've encountered repeated communication shutdowns that fit these three patterns, know this. It's probably not about you or what you said. You may be talking to someone whose disappointment, depression, or unspoken anger makes real listening hard. What we want to do is to find the people who can truly listen and converse. Buddhism reminds us not to feed aversion. Taoism reminds us not to force what doesn't flow. Find the ones who share your interests, which is exactly what I'm doing here, and find other outlets to express yourself. In my next video, I'll introduce some practical tools for both sides of these frustrating conversations. If you find this useful, please hit like and subscribe. And thank you. Your attention and interest in translating anger is received.